amazing nurse, and we're so grateful to have her in the room. Real quick, look, I see y'all in the room. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us. So tonight's topic, we are talking about patient advocacy. And real quick, before we get into the conversation of it, because I know we have some people who are in the chat who are going to want to join in and share their experience with advocacy, but I want to set the tone on what a doula is and why we advocate, right? Because a doula is someone who provides physical, mental, emotional, and sometimes spiritual support for their clients. And look, get it together, honey. And they do it in a way that is able to provide continuous support. So the doula normally connects in the pregnancy, like during the pregnancy, and remains like through the childbirth and into early postpartum. Look, you know me, I am big with note taking. And so here's some things that I found. So advocacy, by definition, advocacy is the act or process of supporting a cause. Right now, as the doula, we support your cause. Whatever kind of birth you are looking to have, that is the cause that the doula is going to assist you in supporting, right? And I want you to listen to this quote, and then I'm going to jump in and I'm not going to jump in. I'm going to lean back and I'm going to let Nurse Ed and Doula Nicole jump in on this. It says, maternal mortality is an important indicator of the health of a nation. These deaths that are almost entirely preventable. And this is by Bob Anderson, and he is the Chief of Mortality Statistics branch at the National Center for Health Statistics. So, Nurse Ed, what is your intent with advocacy and why do you do it?
You can hear me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So my intent with advocacy is because I feel like as human beings, we deserve to have the correct information to make the best decision for ourselves. And I don't like anything that is unfair. And I don't like when people are treated unfairly because of what they look like or who they decide to sleep with or what, I mean, just whatever's the case. I don't like that. Yeah. So I feel like we should all be privy to a lot of this information that most of us are not privy to. So that's my huge thing with advocacy. Like, we should all know what's best. We should all know what we have, what we can do. We should all know that we have options. We should all know that we can say no. Yeah. We should all know that there's a better way. We should all know that. And we should have the information so that we can make better decisions. Like, the reality is, I feel like we do the best that we can with what we have at that moment. And that's all we can do. And so when you get better information, I literally live by, when you know better, you do better. I truly believe that. I don't think that people are just out here just doing whatever because of whatever. I mean, some people may be, but I do feel like when people get better information, they can make better decisions. You make better decisions, you have better outcomes. So
yes. Absolutely. So I see Ashley in the chat. She says doulas are amazing people. Mamas are amazing people. And if there were no mamas and daddies, there would be no doulas, right?
Okay.
So thank you for bringing in this next generation. A Riggs, Mommy CEO says, that's what burns me up. If it's preventable 60%, then clearly there is an intentional disconnect. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that there is a disconnect. And so look, I got some more quotes for you. So the CDC published as of 2022, their statistics. So the maternal mortality rate during the start of COVID actually went up. From 2019 into 2020, the maternal mortality rate actually went up. And one of the things that drastically changed during 2020 was the decrease of doulas in the birth room. And I really, and that's not me tooting my own horn. That's me identifying a problem, because poor communication is cited as the main cause of poor patient outcomes and errors in healthcare, and clear communication can be critical during transitions. And that's like during transitions of anything, like into pregnancy, into birthing, into the postpartum season. During the transition, it has to be clear communication. And so from this platform, I'm going to ask Nicole, how do you advocate for your clients in the birth room?
So for me, I think just talking about like advocacy period, is like huge, because one, you need a doula that's going to advocate. There are some doulas that, you know, do not advocate.
Right.
So it's important to ask that question when you're looking for a doula, just making sure that that's something that they're going to do. And I'm not making decisions for my clients, but I will, you know, because we've already discussed all of this. We know the plan, we know everything else. So if for some reason my client is unable to, you know, speak for themselves, then I can, you know, simply advocate for them in the sense of making sure that their plans are carried out in the way that we discussed and have already been communicated to their provider. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, okay, so one, y'all know me. I like to talk, but I really want to make room for other people to talk tonight. I'm gonna say this one last thing, and then we could go into the storytelling time. I'm gonna keep a lock on the clock tonight so we don't go over time. But one, I want to encourage families. Look, according to the CDC, the maternal mortality rate as far as African American women and stuff like that, there's 55.3 deaths compared to the white counterpart, where it's at about 19.1 deaths. As of 2019, there was it was at a 44 deaths per 100,000 births and stuff like that. So recognizing that as African Americans, our statistics are higher as far as maternal mortality. Look, when y'all go into the birth room, doula or not, I want you to always be prepared to cuss. Check this out. Don't say the bad words, y'all. Don't say the bad words.
Say the bad words, girl.
You might have to say the bad words, but don't say the bad words. I'm not telling you to say the bad words. One, C, I want you to be able to express your concern. Look, I am concerned for X, Y, and Z. What is happening? This is how we open the door to advocacy. I am uncomfortable with A, B, and C. This is how we open the door to further advocate for the person who is birthing or even for ourselves. And S, this is a safety issue. I believe that this 1, 2, and 3 is a safety issue for these reasons. Now, I was in a birth this week, and I'm not going to go too much into this story. I was at a birth this week, and mom's blood pressure was rising. They started pumping her with meds, but she was at the end of her labor, so she's about 10 centimeters. But she needed something to push her over the edge, and she was requesting Pitocin. Her blood pressure is already high, and they were not explaining to her that because her blood pressure was high, adding a new medicine into it was going to have negative impacts on her body and her baby and stuff like that. And so all I did was open the door like, hey, I know you just finished pumping her with all these meds. How's that going to affect this new medication you're giving her? And then it comes out like, oh, well, that may not be the best idea. Oh, okay, so then we don't want this. And advocacy, it doesn't always require like, filth, filth. You know what I mean? It doesn't always require those big words and stuff like that. But like, you can open the door gently to allow people to communicate openly. And that's provided you have reasonable care, because sometimes that's just not the case. Okay, look, ask. Questions are important. Ask. So I have some people in the comments. Look. So I'm going to hit up A. Riggs right now. It says, when I became pregnant, I knew 100% that I needed a doula. I wanted a Black doula to advocate for me during birth because my biggest fears was dying during birth. That is a real fear, y'all, a real fear. And I don't want to say it's just because of the color of our skin, but sometimes when we walk into those rooms, that's the only thing it is. Sometimes it is only the color of our skin that, that makes that truth so real, because we have to look at the maternal mortality rate. All right, Ed, what do you have to say? I know you have stories on advocacy.
You just want to comment, or you want me to go into the story?
Man, dip dive, you have the platform, ma'am. You have the mic.
Before I deep dive into the story, I want to let everyone know that Jen was giving us statistics, and I want you guys to be very clear about what statistics are. Statistics are the numbers that are reported, which means there are numbers that are not reported.
Right.
So I want you guys to know that there are plenty of people who are losing their life. There are plenty of people who have like these near misses. There are things that are happening that are not being reported. So just so you guys know, like, those are the things that are actually being reported. That's what the statistics are. So I'll go into my birthing story. So my birthing story was it was hard for me. And you don't just suffer birth trauma. There's also transferred birth trauma, which is what I
Right.
end up getting from this birth. And it was very hard for me because I'm a nurse and I've been a nurse for over 16 years now. So there's just things that I know about how the hospital works, how it operates, about medications, about all the things. I've been doing it forever. So it's really hard whenever you're in a situation that you can read all the stories, you can read all the articles, you can watch the stuff on television, but it's totally different when you're there and you're feeling it. And there's nothing like having somebody's life in your hand and you're feeling like they are going to die, like if they don't do something. So that was my story, and that's how I felt. So I'll tell you what happened. My niece was pregnant. At this time, she was only 17 years old. So automatically she has two stigmas. She's Black and she's a teen mom, right? Everybody's judging you off gate. So she goes, and I remember her calling me and she was telling me she was swelling, and I was like, put me on FaceTime so I can see you. So she's all swollen all of a sudden, legs, feet, everything. I said, you need to go to the doctor. Make sure they do some urine. I said, you might have preeclampsia. I said, get them to check your blood pressure. I said, just, check and see. I'm a nurse. I don't diagnose, but I know all the clinical signs of what it could possibly be. So I'll say, hey, go ask them about this. She went in. Now my niece, she's only 17. She's not able to, speak up for herself as I do. I'm just.
I can't hear you anymore. Oh,
Sorry,
there you
guys. I
go.
was trying to make the notifications return off. So she doesn't have the strongest voice. So she was going in and she spoke with them. I said, make sure you check your blood pressure, make sure they're doing urine screen, those things, right? And so she called me. She said, they said it was just normal. I was just swelling. I said, it's not normal because it just happened out of the blue and it's a lot. And I said, well, what was your blood pressure? They told me my blood pressure wasn't that bad. What was the number? She didn't know the number and she didn't ask. You know what I mean? So here we go. I said, did they do a urine screen on you? No. Okay, so my issue with that is they label a lot of Black women high risk and say that we're high risk for preeclampsia. Okay, if that's the case, if your doctor labels you high risk, guys, and they say that you're a risk for preeclampsia, every visit you should get a urine screen, and you should get a urine screen because you want to see if you have protein in your urine. Protein in your urine is a major indicator that you have preeclampsia. Well, it's the protein in urine, it's the swelling, it's the high blood pressure, but the protein in the urine is like the indicator. So they didn't do a urine screen. Told her to go home, get some rest. And the whole time I'm checking on her, she's still swelling, right? A week and a half later, she goes to her 34 weeks checkup, and they're like, oh, you have preeclampsia. We need to induce you right now. It's an emergency. We're going to rush you to the next hospital over. And I was like, she had it a week and a half ago. You guys should have addressed it then. Okay, fine. Fast forward, rush her to the hospital. I'm in California, so I have to fly to North Carolina where she is. By the time I get to North Carolina, she had just immediately had the baby. She had a doula with her during the birth. It was a lot that happened during the birth that was inappropriate vaginal check. She had a doctor tell her that she wasn't going to make it through her pregnancy because she moves too much when he does her vaginal checks, and then tells her it shouldn't hurt because she's what she said. He said it shouldn't hurt that bad. I mean, it's no worse than what you were doing when you got in this position. That ain't none of your business. But yeah inappropriate. So, and just constantly telling her, you're going to have to get an epidural, you're going to have to get an epidural. She made it without the epidural. She did amazing. Fast forward through her birth, she also made it clear that she did not want to use formula, that she wanted to breastfeed. So, of course, they're pressuring her after she had the baby. She's out of it. They had already started magnesium. So with magnesium, we say in the nursing world, like, she's magged out, basically meaning you can be like lethargic, you look exhausted, you're tired because your body has so much of this medication in you, but we're using it to help lower your blood pressure. And let me say this really quickly about magnesium. Magnesium helps to lower your blood pressure, helps to manage that when a person has preeclampsia. And they're also just wanting to make sure, because with preeclampsia, don't get me wrong, you can have major issues and your baby can be under major distress. They can. But literally, it's really all about management. So fast forward, she has the baby's 34 weeks, has to be rushed to the NICU. That's another thing. Nobody even preps you for NICU. You label mom high risk, you label her as preeclampsia. You don't even say you could possibly be in a preterm labor. You could possibly be induced earlier. Your baby could possibly be in the NICU. Nobody even goes into that. Yeah. And so fast forward, baby's in the NICU. They go into the room and tell her, oh, your baby has to get formula because we don't want their blood sugar to drop. So let me say this to you guys. Your baby has 12 hours before they need to feed. Your baby was just disconnected from their food supply, which is the umbilical cord that goes to your placenta. That is pressure. Baby didn't need formula right then, but they gave it to the baby anyway, even though she said no. Okay, that's another thing. Fast forward, mom, baby's out, baby's in the NICU, we're checking on baby, we're working with mom. She's so out of it, and she starts to get weaker and weaker. And I'm telling them, like, hey, she looks weaker and weaker. Three doctors came in the room, and I said, hey, what's her magnesium level? Oh, we'll check it. We'll get back to you. Another doctor, hey, what's her magnesium level? I'm not sure. I'll check and see what it is. Another doctor, what's the magnesium level? Oh, I don't know. I said, did y'all draw a magnesium level, or you just don't know? Or like, what is it? I'm a nurse. I know better. I know you can go in your patient's chart, go to labs, go to magnesium, and find the number. No one has any idea. So what that tells me was y'all didn't even draw a baseline magnesium, or you just haven't even drawn one since you put it on. So most places have a standard protocol where they draw magnesium levels every 6 hours while people are on magnesium infusion for preeclampsia. This particular hospital did not have one. They later told me, well, we draw magnesium levels if they show signs and symptoms of toxicity. I know that. Well, because we do our assessments, but you weren't assessing her, you weren't checking on her, so you didn't know that her levels was rising. I knew because I just happen to know what it looks like. So she's becoming more lethargic, she's out of it, she can barely open her eyes. I keep telling them, like, this is not her, y'all need to draw some blood. They're like, oh, she just doesn't want to get up. First of all, that's my niece. You don't know her. I know her. But that's just Auntie Eb. Like, listen, no, like, she's not just, I don't want to get up because I'm a lazy teenager. Like, there's something wrong with her. Then her face was swelling. Her oxygen level was dropping. Now, mind you, she should have been taking off the magnesium because her blood pressure had started to regulate itself. It was coming around. It was lowering. And I said, well, her blood pressure is not even that high anymore. You guys can stop it. And we need to try to get her to wake up and see what's going on. They're like, oh, she's fine. But our protocol is to run magnesium for 24 hours. I said, even if she doesn't need it. Yeah, because we like to make sure that everything's okay. When you're under magnesium, they should be assessing you at least every 2 hours. They need to be checking your reflexes. Your reflexes is one of the last things to go if you have high levels of magnesium, and that's bad. So what saved her was she's young and she has amazing kidney function. She did have a Foley catheter, so I kept watching that the entire time. She's putting out urine, which means she's flushing the medication from her system. Great. So I finally said, listen, I need y'all to call the doctor right now, and I need to talk to somebody right now. This is not it. This is not how she looks. I am a nurse, and I know better. Of course, they don't think I'm a nurse, right? So finally, I get a doctor to come in. And he says, okay, we're going to draw labs from her. You know, she doesn't look good. Okay, great. That was one doctor. The nurse comes in, and I lie to you not. The nurse says, we're going to draw some blood from you because your family thinks something's wrong with you. That's what the nurse said. Now, mind you, I'm going to tell y'all how that felt. I felt so hopeless in that moment because one part of me was like, I should place up. You get what I'm saying? I should blow that bitch up, okay? Okay. But then I'm like auntie too, because I'm like, this is my niece. And then there's another part of me that was like, okay, Ebony, you have to exercise some emotional intelligence here, because if you go off, then they're going to label you as the angry Black woman, you're aggressive, and they're going to make you leave, right? And then your niece is going to be here by herself. They're already not assessing her. So you have to do what you have to do in this moment to save her life. And I literally felt like she is going to die if they don't do something right now. I had done a neuro assessment on her. I couldn't even her arm was like this. I couldn't even get her to wake up. Like it was horrible. And I was like, so you don't think anything's wrong with this? Oh, she just probably just doesn't want to get up. They draw the labs. Then I said, I need to speak with another doctor now. A doctor came in. Crazy thing is, this was the doctor that saw her come through the ED. He walks in. He literally does this. He was like, he scratched that. He said, how does she look to you? I said, she looks horrible. She don't look good. I said, how does she look to you? He's like, yeah, she doesn't look good to me. I'm going to get them to make sure they already drew the labs. I said, they said they drew them. I don't know if they were stat or not. Now, mind you, this is like 2 hours has gone by. So next thing I know, about 15 minutes later, after the doctor leaves, he does her assessment. The doctor checks her reflexes. She has none. Mind you, the nurses haven't checked her reflexes all day. So 15, 20 minutes later, the nurse comes in. She goes to the IV pole where the magnesium is. She takes it down, shuts it off, takes everything down, and throws it away in the trash. I knew immediately her magnesium level was high, not because of just how she presented, but you threw it away. You didn't slow down the rate. So it's not like you slowed it right down or turned it down. You immediately threw everything away and was just like, okay, yeah, the doctor said we're going to stop her magnesium. I said, what was her magnesium level? Oh, I don't know yet, but they wanted to stop it. Doctor comes in about 10 minutes after that. He's like, well, her magnesium came back. I said, what was her level? 9.4. Let me
What
pull
are they
that in.
supposed to be at?
Okay, so normal magnesium therapeutic levels in a regular person should be 1.5 to 2.5. Some places 1.6 to 2.6, right? Now, even if you are on magnesium therapeutically for preeclampsia, you really shouldn't go above 7. How do I know that? Because I have nurse friends that work in L&D. And my friend, and mind you, I'm calling them while this is happening. My friend was also like, they should have been checking her mag levels. So the doctor is like, all apologetic and all this stuff. And of course, at this point, I am livid because I'm like, do you not know she could go into cardiac arrest from magnesium toxicity? So there's all this like, oh, sorry type, Then they come in and they're like, okay, well, we're going to get her transferred to postpartum. I said, no, you're not. She's going to stay here so you can monitor her. What do you mean you're going to transfer her? Now, mind you, a couple hours before, they told me that I couldn't give her a bath or sit her on the side of the bed anything because that would be dangerous for her. But now she's all magged out. Her level is 9.4. She can't even open her eyes. And you want to get her up and send her to another unit. Yeah, because you want to hurry up and get her out of here. You don't want the problem on your unit. So fast forward, she finally starts to come around only because they stopped the magnesium. It literally would have ran for 4 more hours. And this was 4 hours after we got the level of 9.4. So it was a level of 9.4. And time had already passed. So by the time they came and told me it was 9.4, it had still been infusing for a couple of more hours. So it could have been at least, who knows, 12 or 13 at that point. So, and it was supposed to infuse for 4 more hours. So she literally would have went into a cardiac arrest because she was already having low oxygen levels. She was non-responsive. It was terrible. And so we go over to postpartum. She's coming around. She's starting to wake up a little bit more. I also go see the baby in the NICU. Poor baby, he's magged out. He's just out of it because his little body is full of mag as well. And so it's just scary to feel. I mean, in the moment that I did her neuro assessment and I couldn't get nothing, and she just was like flaccid in the bed, like no movement, no nothing. And then when I checked the reflexes and she had nothing, that's when I got super crazy scared and was like, I don't care what they say, like, I'm a nurse. Oh, well, they're going to have to know I'm a nurse. Like, I need the doctors. At that point, that's when I started really just, like, being very adamant, being very assertive, because I couldn't lose my niece because y'all don't want to listen to what I'm saying. And so it was a bad feeling to, like, be there like that. And I'm a nurse, and I just felt like they were so dismissive of me. Like, they didn't even think I was a nurse. And it's not about you believing that I'm a nurse. It's about, I'm telling you something is wrong with her. And why do you not listen to a family member when they tell you something is wrong? And I didn't want to pull the race card. I kept saying, okay, maybe she's new because it was 2 nurses and 1 was training. Okay, maybe she hasn't been a nurse that long. Okay, maybe they're just not getting it. So let me just keep letting them know, like, what's going on. I kept trying to, be objective in the situation, but there's nothing to be objective about. Like, there's no other reason because you guys were not even doing her assessment. You kept saying she just doesn't want to get up. Like, her. Like, that is so, I don't know. It was just it was a hard feeling because, like, you have to control your emotions. Like, you just want to, like, throw something up against the wall, but you can't. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to, like, I remember saying to myself, there's no way I'm going to, like, let my niece just die right here in front of me. Like, there's no way I can do that. So I just say, like, you need people that can advocate for you. She was so out of it. She was just there laying in the bed like a piece of meat. Like, they were doing nothing. They weren't doing her assessments appropriately. So for me, it was just, and then I think about, like, God, what if I wasn't there? She would have been gone, and this would have been another little baby in the world without a mama. That did not have to happen. Like, talk about a preventable death. All they would have had to do was just do her
at 17.
And I think at 17 years old, like, she almost died at 17 years old trying to give birth. And I think one of the things that you said earlier, Eb, was the near misses. You know what I mean? Like, they talk about the actual deaths, but they don't talk about the near misses. You know what I mean? Like, I have family members who, when they recall their birth story, it's from a traumatic place where it was a C-section. They left her outside in the hallway because they did not have a room available. And then they took the baby from her. And so, you know what I mean? Like, she was like, no, like, nobody's there to watch her. And then she she's ready to hop out the bed, but then her legs don't work. And, it was a whole bad experience. but this is how our mothers are going into their
Mhm.
postpartum season. They're going
Yes.
into their postpartum season from a traumatic place, you know, from the mentality, one, the insufficiency where the doctors are communicating like, no, your body doesn't work. Let me fix it for you. But then on top of that, like, I can't protect myself. How can I protect my baby? And then like 9 times out of 10, you know what I mean? Like when we go through trauma, like we definitely don't have time to address it. Not when we have a new baby in the house and stuff like that. And so, you know, when we look at our community and we say like, what is it that's plaguing us? You know, it's these conversations that we're not having, you know. Okay.
And I'm sorry
Nicole.
because it just brought it back again. You know what I mean? Like it's just
It's real. It's
you know,
real.
it's just a feeling of like, it's just the lack of a person's life, no matter what color they are. It's like you can do even the smallest things, like, you know, your assessment. And then like, for me, it's just, I have no desire to give birth in the hospital. I mean, if I have to go to a hospital, it's because it was like no other choice whatsoever. Yeah. But it was just so traumatic. And I feel like they're not even listening to me. And then they wanted to do an incident report. And I was like, no, let me tell y'all something. If something happens, they want to do an incident report. No, you go to risk management. Because risk management are the only ones that are going to actually investigate. An incident report is like, oh, we messed up, don't do that again. Yeah. Risk management is like higher administration has to come down, talk to management to see like, okay, what went on. But even with the hospital, they finally sent us a letter and was like, yeah, her magnesium was high, but you know, they were monitoring her, so she was fine.
So someone just put something in the comment, and I see you. And I want to put some parameters on the conversation. So we're having this conversation not from a point of the hospitals are bad and you have to be super concerned and you can't ever go in the hospital because something horrible is going to happen, but from an understanding that like there's a reason why we speak up for ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we speak up for ourselves because bad things can happen when we become just another number. There's a reason why we hire doulas and why doulas are worth their weight in gold for I'm sorry, y'all. I have a social media timer and it just went off. So it's the reason why like doulas are worth their weight in gold, because when you can't, a doula will, you know what I mean? Like when you can't you can't muster up the words to speak for yourself, like a doula will open that door to allow, like to create space. You know what I mean? Like Eb and Nicole, they mentioned earlier, like we can't make your decisions. You know what I mean? Like we can't make your decisions. Like we can't, but we will. Hey, do you see this? Are we okay with this? This thing that we previously talked about that was maybe not such a good idea, but maybe it's happening right now that we probably shouldn't allow this to. Are you okay with this? Oh, you're not? Yeah, go ahead. Let's expound on why we're not. You know what I mean? Right. Like I am a very like, look, I will cuss. I will communicate. I will communicate clearly my discontent for the situation. I will communicate clearly. I will not cuss. Ideally, I will not cuss in the birth room because I think it's very unprofessional in the sense that like I don't want ever to be that angry Black woman that has to be removed. And then my client now doesn't have an advocate with them and stuff like that. But I will let my presence be known, and I will give my clients the opportunity. And so I don't want anyone to feel in the comments that, hey, like this is something that could happen to me. Like, yes, you should be aware, but this is also why we discuss it. We discuss it because when you have an awareness of it, it takes the power away from it. When the medical system is allowed to just do things the way they're comfortable doing things, this is where we fall through the crack. And I won't put any intention on it. I won't say it's intentional because I can't speak for someone else's intention. But what I have seen, what I know is that when we don't speak up for ourselves and we don't have the proper oversight, this is why doulas are so important, because a doula is a third party. Yeah. And so as a third party, the doctor is now looking at them like you're here to check up on me. And so like, I can't tell a doctor how to do their job, but I sure can question it. So, all right, Nicole, jump into the conversation. So okay, let's talk about some positive advocate moments. What have you ever positively advocated for your client in a way that led them to like this open door? And it wasn't this traumatic situation, but it led them into that open door of like sunshines and rainbows in the birth room. If we could talk about
I think,
sunshine and rainbows in the birth room.
there are tons of positives, but I think, the thing when I hear advocacy, the other piece of it is like informed consent. And informed consent is knowing what's about to happen to your body and your baby and being able to, either answer in a negative or positive way. No one should even touch you. Like a doctor shouldn't come in and say, oh, I'm going to check you now. Yeah. The doctor should come in and say, is it okay for me to check you now? The nurse should come in and say, hey, this is happening to you. Is it okay if we start Pitocin and then proceed with an explanation? So I think, when it comes to advocacy, the other piece of that is people doing things to your body that you have no clue that's happening. And then, on the back end, they've done something that wasn't consensual in the first place. Right. And then now the need for somebody to advocate on your behalf. So I think that's huge. Positive advocacy, I think, I probably see that even more than I do, like the other side of it. Birth never goes the way we planned. It doesn't even matter what it is, whether it's a little thing or a big thing. And I think there was, it was Mrs. SSJ or somewhere along that line, but she said something to the fact that, she hopes she doesn't experience anything traumatic in birth. And so, I think the big thing is like the preparation and the information that you get beforehand, especially in having a doula, so that birth doesn't have to be traumatic and you can have somebody try to help navigate some of that, those roads as they twist and turn, because you don't know, when you show up to a doctor's appointment, when you show up to the hospital, you don't know what's going to happen next. Right. You go to a doctor's appointment and the next thing you know, you're at the hospital because whatever test they ran that day, went sideways. Yeah. And then being able to have the conversation. So I think even right now, I have a client, they're in the process of getting induced. They went to the doctors for a checkup yesterday. They said, the baby's not growing the way that we think. Baby should be growing. We think your placenta's insufficient at this point. We're going to send you to the hospital for monitoring. I immediately knew, hospital monitoring, you're having a baby. There you go. They're not letting you out. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, so they end up, of course, like, yep, things are not looking right. Your blood pressure high. Of course, your blood pressure's high. You just told me my baby's not growing and my placenta is insufficient, but okay. So we're going to go ahead and induce you. And so they're sitting at the hospital. There are no labor and delivery rooms available for induction to even start. So we're just sitting on the side waiting for something. So then the question is, well, are they allowing you to eat? Are you going to be able to get food? So even when you talk about the positive things, not even medical at that point, or are they okay with you eating? Go get you some food. Can you leave and go home? And they call you when a labor and delivery room opens. Why are you sitting in a hospital? So just even the things preparing you before you even have started induction, now, turn the tide. So they were able to ask, can we get some food? So they got lunch because it was early in the day, and they allowed them to get dinner before the induction even started, which is huge because we know once induction starts, you're not eating anymore. So that plays a major piece in, the ability to now have the strength to birth on the back end. And so being able to just walk them through all the steps of even what induction looks like and everything, so that hopefully on the back end, they're still able to have the birth that they wanted, even though the plan has already sort of been tossed out the window in terms of how we thought labor was going to start. So, I think we see a lot more positives at the end of the day than we see negatives. But I think the other piece is part of that, seeing the positive, is having the continuous professional support. It's nice to have your mom, your sister, your best friend, your partner, your husband. All of that stuff is amazing to have, but that's your safe person. Yes. but they still don't know birth. They don't know the medical side. And so having somebody by your side that can point out the good, the bad, and ask the questions and making sure that you know what's happening. When somebody comes in and says something and saying like, can we wait a second and have a conversation about it? What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? All these things, just running through them so that, whatever it is that happens, you are well informed of it happening, and you had a say so, whether it's coming out of your mouth or it's coming out of your doula's mouth, because they were there as representation for you if you were unable to speak in that moment.
Absolutely. So Nicole, you made a really good point. I got two things to say. So you made a really good point, and it was basically how the doula outlines the conversation that the client is then able to have with their doctor. And a lot of advocacy is prior planning. A lot of advocacy, especially what I like, I don't know if it's a me thing, but it doesn't sound like it's a me thing. A lot of the advocacy that I do for my clients is the prior planning. Like, we sit down and we talk about, if this happens, then this, if this happens, then this, you know what I mean? Like, really, really understanding the flow chart of what happens once we enter into the hospital,
right?
Recognizing like, okay, so there's going to be a period of time where we're going to be separated, but it should only last this long. And then once we reconnect, like, don't make any decisions until we reconnect, so that when you're making decisions, we can make these bite-sized decisions and you're not getting overrun. Because oftentimes, like Nurse Eb said, is that the conversation will come in, and Nurse Eb or Nicole, y'all said like, oh, well, we're gonna do this now, or we're gonna do this now. And when you recognize that, like, wait, hold on, this is still my whole body. And I want to point out what Birthing Noir said. It said, I don't know if I said that right, so I apologize, but it's in the comment, and it said, it's also hard to think and labor at the same time. Support is needed. Like, I always tell my families that I work with and stuff like that, there comes a point in time during labor where mom is no longer there.
Nope. Check down.
So I don't know if you could hear that outside, but I'm gonna ignore it. So, like, there comes a point in time where, like, mom is no longer there. Like, she is fully invested into what is going on inside her body, and she doesn't have the time to answer questions. She doesn't have the time to sign documents. She doesn't have the time to explain to you why you should not be putting your hand there. You know what I mean? And that's where an advocate comes in. And although, like Nicole said, like, although family members are great and support people are great, and at the same time, if you have not seen birth multiple times, like, you're just gonna assume like, oh, this is normal. And then when you recognize, oh wait, that was not necessary, that wasn't necessary like that at that time, and now we started to think like, oh, okay, so maybe that was a violation. And then, like, we could get into the conversation of like, I don't want to even put that word out there right now and stuff like that. But so do we have, I asked the question real quick, do we have any stories of advocacy from the audience? It says yes.
While you're looking, Jen,
go ahead.
I just also want to tell people, as far as advocacy is concerned, advocacy starts way before you even get to the birth room. Like, it starts at your doctor appointments. It starts talking to your family members. Like, something as simple as thinking about early on, who do I really want in the room with me? Who do I not want there? You know what I mean? Because we feel like we have to let people there because of the roles that they play in our lives. But if they're not going to be a good support for you, then they really don't need to be in the room with you, because they could be more of a hindrance than anything. Like, if it's a person that gives you high anxiety, they don't need to be there, because that can arrest your labor. If there's someone that's very passive, then they may not need to be there either, because if there's something that you want and they can't speak up for you, then there's another conflict there. So advocating for yourself way before you even get to the birth, and it follows after, because some people have a hard time telling family, no, you can't come visit when the baby's first
boundaries.
Born. There's boundaries. Even that is advocating for yourself. So advocacy is preconception throughout pregnancy and birth and beyond. It's not just in your delivery room.
Look, okay, so I'm going to be all the way biased, because I have some of my previous clients in the chat. And so, A. Riggs, I love you. So she says, my doula advocated for me during birth, especially specifically with me changing positions during labor and making sure I didn't have too many meds in my body. Mm-hmm. Also, it was great that she was asking questions. Her birth specifically, you know, like there was a point in time where they had to readjust the epidural. And here's the fallacy, because they say that once you get the epidural, everything is easy.
Come on.
And it's just not true. It's just not true. Like the epidural, it just changes things. And I'm not saying, I'm not a hater. I am not a hater. Like if you want to get the epidural, go ahead and get the epidural, mama. But it's just going to change the discomfort. And so in her situation, she had gotten the epidural and they had to change the placement of it. But like, you know, when somebody walk into the room and you like, should you be in this room? It was one of those situations, but they had to mess around with her back. And, you know, like, and in my head, I'm like, you know what? We just gotta ask all the questions because you just gonna have to be real uncomfortable with me. And I think like now, like I've been a doula for like 7-8 years now. I've just gotten comfortable with people being uncomfortable with me. Oh, you don't like me? It's okay. You know, you don't have to like me, but I'm going to make sure that my client is fully aware of everything that they need and everything that they're getting, even if it's something that they do not need. And if you don't want to answer me, oh, well, you're going to answer me. You know what I mean? Like you may not want to, but you're going to, because it's a valid question. You know what I mean? And I purposely posture myself never to be disrespectful, always to be honoring and stuff like that, because that's the stuff that I expect back. And so never have I had a problem. Like a real problem. You cut your eyes at me if you want to, but my client is going to know what they need to know and stuff like that. Mrs. SSJJ says, agreed. My doula is my person, especially as a first-time mom, first pregnancy. Jazzyman77 says, having that support system from your doula definitely plays a part with a successful birth. Okay, what else do we have? So I have A Rig says, yes, I could barely think during my labor. Look, none of us could. You laboring, there's a point where you go baseline and you like, all I'm doing is breathing through this next contraction. I got enough sense for the
if I can do that. Right. I don't half time can't focus on that. So I tell people that all the time though. You know, you think you collect all this information, like from the moment you find out you're pregnant, sometimes even before, like you take all this information in, you're Googling, you're reading all these books, you're asking all your friends and your mom and everybody else, all this stuff to get all this information. And then contractions start hitting and life gets real. Everything they say, just gone. It like scrambled up, whirlwind, flew out an ear somewhere, and you have no clue what's going on. And the only people, you know, if you don't have a doula in there, the only people you have to rely on is the medical staff. And you don't know if they have your best interest at heart or not. And all of them are serving multiple people at one time. So, you know, even if they do have your best interest at heart, they are not completely focused on you. So you're right, Earthside Village. Nothing prepares you until it gets real, because it definitely gets real, you know, in the birth room. And, you know, having somebody there that's like that support and that calm and that steady makes a complete world of difference. So
absolutely.
And when I had a thought after you were talking about the positive advocacy, I had a client, she was going for a VBAC, and she ended up with a repeat C-section. VBAC, just in case anybody doesn't know, is a vaginal birth after cesarean. So she had a first cesarean with her first child, and she was going in to have vaginal birth afterwards. But, you know, they were trying to do like these things. It was going sort of like downhillish. And so being in there to be able to advocate, she ended up still with the second C-section. But at the end of the day, she was so pleased because we had already covered every possible angle we could have covered beforehand. And when they came in and they were talking about, well, you're not progressing fast enough, let's do Pitocin, and they're trying to ramp it up. I'm like, hold on, why are we ramping it up? We have time. Oh, let's break your water. Why are we breaking our water? We're not, but at 4 centimeters.
Yeah.
So having conversation. So, and then when she went in for the C-section, it wasn't the same as that first C-section. So even a doula for a C-section can completely change, you know, the outlook of what that birth looks like. And so, you know, we tried all the things, and at the end of the day, you know, she accepted, you know, this was not necessarily meant for me in this moment, but the birth that I had was 10 times better because I had a doula by my side, making sure that all the things that should have happened and should not have happened were in place. And then even we had the backup C-section plan. So when she went in for the C-section, it was very clear as to her needs and everything else. So she still got the skin to skin. Her hands were free. She still got to do, the husband got to cut the cord, all the things that you still want in birth, but it was just on the operating room side. So, just having all those conversations and truly, truly, truly like being informed and knowing what's happening, why it's happening, and, asking all the questions as long as it's non-emergent.
Yeah,
So,
I think
go ahead.
Oh, did you see it? Did you see it in the comments?
Well, I was gonna say, Birthing Noir in the comments, she said, yes, the birth plan should be like an algorithm, which is absolutely true.
Right.
And that's kind of what Nicole was referring to. It's kind of like, well, if this happens, then I want to do this. And if this happens, then I want to go here. And if this happens, then we'll do this. If I have to do a cesarean, I want to have it this way. So literally, you do need to have that plan, that preface is there. So you get what you want. And people say, well, you can't promise anybody anything just because you're a doula. We're not promising you anything other than you get to have a say in how your birth goes. Like, you get to be involved in your birth experience without somebody taking it away from you and saying, you come to the hospital, this is the standard protocol, and this is what we do. Because they have a plan and you have a plan, but you need to have a plan and you need to have support so that you can actually get the plan, that you can, go through your plan. But of course, be flexible, because birth is unpredictable. Nobody can predict birth, not even your doctor that's inducing you and doing a cesarean. So it's great that Nicole brought up the birthing plan and showing like how her client got to have what she wanted, even when she had the cesarean.
Yeah. And I think when you consider the reasons why women fall into like postpartum depression after the birth, it's because so much of their power, look, you can't mess with me on this. They're like, women are so absolutely powerful. You know what I mean? Just the act of growing another human. And for some of the people in the comments, they've grown 2 humans at a time. Like, just the simple act of growing a human is outrageously powerful. And then birthing them into the world, like it's not for the faint of heart. You know what I mean? It's not for the faint of heart. And in the process of birthing, when you do it underneath a medical system that is not able to honor the greatness that dwells on the inside of a woman and stuff like that, so much of her power gets stripped away. And it's easy for women to have a hard time processing what they experienced and then fall into a depression. One of the things Ed said was like having a say. When you have a say, even if it doesn't go well, like, because you had a say, like we're now mapping out the journey ahead. Like, okay, so and birth, I would never say it's right or wrong. It's always right and left. You know what I mean? Like, it's this way or this way. This way, you can go natural, you can get the epidural. You can get the epidural, you can get a C-section. Like, there's no right or wrong answers other than mom not having a say, because it's her body. Like, it's her body, and her body is already doing a magnitude of stuff. And so she needs to be able to say, at the very least, no, don't touch me right now. That's it. You know what I mean? Because you know what she can't say? Hey, little baby, don't touch that right now. Because there's nothing she could say to that baby as they rotate down and out. You know what I mean? It's already putting a weight on her, right? Okay, so now that Eb and Nicole have already commented on having a say, check this out in the comments. Sheree7, previously known as C Money, she says at 2 a.m. Check this out. She says at 2 a.m. after I've given birth, in the pre-op room, the nurses said that they had to take my twins to the nursery. My husband and I wanted to keep the children with us at all times. We saw in the material they provided and mentioned that you should not let the baby out of your sight. Our doula, Jen, bias, advocated for us. Look, they came in like she had just given birth, She has 2 healthy babies, you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, oh, we're taking the boys to the nursery. And it's time for us to take the boys to the nursery. And listen, like, I wasn't even supposed to still be in the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2 a.m. we don't already have the baby. You know, I'm exhausted. Mom and dad are exhausted. And I just so happened to be in the room still. You know what I mean? Like, I just so happened to be in the room still. And they were like, no, we're going to take them now. And I was like, why? Like, for what? And the nurse was like, because we're supposed to. And I was like, yeah, but I don't understand why. You know, like, there was some additional monitoring that they had to do on mom, but it was nothing that mom was incapacitated. It was nothing that mom was unable to care for the boys. Like, we had already took the boys to the breast. The boys were already wetting up the diapers, needing to be changed multiple times. And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to take them. And then they start throwing out irrelevant excuses. And they say, oh, well, because they haven't eaten. And I was like, that's weird, because they were just on the breast. So what more checks do you have to do on them that you can't do them in the room? And the nurse got pissy, and the nurse walked out and sent in a different nurse, and we had the same conversation, and the baby stayed with mom and dad. You know, like, and it's not even from a place, like, I'm never from a confrontational place, but these boys are brand new, and mom and dad are brand new. The one thing that they deserve the right to be together. You know what I mean? Like, barring an emergency that someone is in grave danger, there's no reason why they should not be together.
And imagine had you not been there though, Jen, because think about it. This labor was long. We had to have this, you know, now the birth is done and over with. But it's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. If you don't know anybody and they tell you we need to do this just to make sure, okay, you could possibly like, okay, if you're like trusting and you just really don't know what's going on. But some people, it's 2:30 in the morning. You're exhausted. Your brain can't even think to advocate for yourself or to say, no, I don't want this. But at least you can say, reverse my birth plan. No, I didn't want that. I said I wanted to keep my babies with me. I'm just saying, as a NICU nurse, there was nothing that they needed to do that they couldn't do there if there wasn't an emergency. Now, if it was truly an emergency, the babies would have already been in the NICU or they would have been somewhere else. But if it wasn't truly an emergency, the babies were fine. Whatever they need to do, they can do it there. But the whole separation of babies from parents is a Western concept. They don't really do that in other countries. That's here because of how they do things and how they want to get things done and do these tests and all this stuff. Like, it's just really no regard for like caring and like therapeutic, like family time or just comfort and just caregiving as a whole. We just don't have that concept in this country, which is of course why we need to advocate for ourselves and understand that you can speak up, you can say no. People come into the hospital and their patients and their whole demeanor changes. You can be the most powerful person on the outside, but when you come in the hospital in that vulnerable environment, you just feel like you're just under the system and have to do what they say, but you don't.
And it's important to know that. Look, so check this out. So I'm going to read a couple more comments, and I got one in my DMs over here that I need to read.
Perfect.
So we're coming up on the hour, and I want to honor your time. Nurse Eb, Nicole, y'all going to have to tell me whether or not I need to cut it short. Okay, it says, Leah Visions. I'm biased, y'all. That's my baby girl. She just had my grandbaby. All right. Yeah,
Congratulations.
Is that Leah
Come
Visions?
on with the new baby.
Leah Visions?
That's
okay,
my girl.
I just read a comment about
Go ahead, read it.
It says, my doula advocated for me once doctor began to use scare tactics, because they will, for a cesarean. She simply stated if it was an emergency, they wouldn't be giving me an option, which gave me peace and more control. Absolutely, honey. If it's an emergency, we're not even doing a whole lot of talking.
No, it's not. It's not. Look, A Rig says women are built for this. Yes, I kept telling myself, even now at 13 weeks, I'm built for this. Look, this is a truth. This is a truth that you need to get at the like at the very beginning of pregnancy, if not before pregnancy. Like, you need to know that your body is built for this, because once we start taking on their mentality of like us needing a system that's going to, that's going to do every step of the process. I did not need anybody to build these fingers and toes. I didn't need anybody to pump this blood through my body and baby's body. I didn't need anybody for that. So why all of a sudden at the end, you know what I mean? Like, do I now all of a sudden need y'all to make a way in my body? Jazzy Men 77 says, you still have a say. Don't be afraid to speak up and ask questions if you're not sure. Look, I am going to take a whole side like a whole side route because I was at Jazzy's birth. So check this out. So one, my friend has a lot of kids. This is why we're friends. So check this out. She had one particular birth, and she's already given me, look, don't come for me in the comments. She's already given me permission to tell her on her birth stories. So she had one baby who, like, mom is in labor and baby is butt down. I mean, butt down, like showing her whole tail to the world, right? And so the doctors are like, we need to do a C-section. Her parents, her in-laws, her husband, everybody like, hey, look, just like stop tripping, just do the C-section. Jazz is fully confident, like, I don't want to do the C-section. And so they're in Hawaii at the time. I'm on the East Coast at the time. And so she calls me up and she's like, Jen, like, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so me, like from that distance, I could doula all day. I'm very good with my verbal communications and stuff like that. I could talk positions, but I don't know what to do with a baby that's butt down. And so like our reliance, Jazz and I, we share a similar faith. And so, you know, and so we sit down and we pray. And she's like, they're coming back, Jen, they're coming back in 20 minutes. And I was like, look, if anybody could do something in 20 minutes, God could do something in 20 minutes, right? And so we sit down and we pray. Tell me why this little girl flipped head down. They put like the belts to keep baby in place and stuff like that. So baby was not able to flip again. And they popped her up on Pitocin and stuff like that. And mom went on to have a vaginal unmedicated birth and stuff like that. And so like, it is possible to advocate for yourself. And sometimes it's not in the face, right? Sometimes you don't have to take it to the doctor's face and be like, no, this and no, that. Like sometimes like you just need to go into your safe place.
Yeah.
And get connected. Look, and get connected to those who share that same precious faith. Whatever it is that you are believing for within your body, it's capable of and stuff like that. As long as you have those who are going to support you through it. And that's why I said in the very beginning, like a doula is like physical, mental, emotional, and sometimes spiritual and stuff like that. Sometimes all you have to do is stop and get silent with yourself and stuff like that, and get into that safe place with God and allow him to do what you can't. All right, prayer works, baby girl, come on. All right, so check this out. So this is the last one that I'm going to read, and somebody text messaged this to me earlier today. Okay, so while I find this, Eb, what's one thing that you would say to a new mom in regards to prepping for hospital birth?
I would say for a new mom prepping for a hospital birth, I first would want her to, like we discussed, like you were just discussing, Jen, I literally have to get their mind to understand, like, listen, if you weren't made to do this, your body wouldn't have a uterus, right? So clearly your body was made to carry this baby, to create this baby, to feed this baby, to nourish this baby, right? But I would also want the mom to understand you have got to prepare your mind for what you may possibly be walking into. Meaning, I want you to make sure that you're well rested. I want you to look at your environment, who's around you. I want you to look at what you're feeding yourself. Feeding yourself meaning what you're looking at on social media, on TV, what you're allowing people to speak to you. Because a new mom, you're already anxious, you're already scared. So just kind of really guarding your heart, guarding your mind, but preparing yourself. Like, I want to make sure that you have the support that you need. But I start early with moms, as far as like, I start early with them with their minds. I start early with them with their breathing and meditation. Yes. But I'm huge on meditation, because what I have learned over the years about meditation is that meditation teaches you to just be in the present and to just take a moment. It's like react, it's respond, don't react. Because most often we react and we make all these decisions. But meditation teaches you to just take a moment and then you respond. So I think for me, I just come from a place of empowerment and encouragement, because I don't like to foster fear. Because we, as adults, humans, we're going to make decisions out of fear or out of love. And most often when we make decisions out of fear, they're not always the best decisions. So I just try to make sure that I do the best that I can to get rid of fear. And the one question I ask every mom in the very beginning, I say, what is your biggest fear? So that way we get it on out. It's not in your mind and it's not bothering you for the next like 40 weeks. Like we get it out and we get it out the way. So that way we can talk about it and we can work through it. But really it's preparation. Like I look at birth, I look at pregnancy like a marathon, like I'm preparing for a marathon. And then I get to birth and I'm prepared and I'm ready to rock. Like you can't, it's just not like I'm just going to go have this baby. Like that is just not it. And not only that, you have to prepare because you're with the forces that be. Like this country looks at birth. Pregnancy is a diagnosis.
Yes.
It's a diagnosis so that it can be treated. That's just kind of what it is. And so you have to just being aware of that and just arming yourself and equipping yourself with knowledge, having support. Knowledge is everything, because even if you were scared in the beginning, once you get this knowledge, like your client said, your daughter, she had more peace. She knew that it was a scare tactic. So when you know those things, you don't have to respond out of fear. You can react out of knowledge and information. But just new mom, I would just say, take a moment, breathe, equip yourself, prepare yourself, get support. Don't let all the outside voices get to you. Don't immediately think it's going to be horrible, and don't immediately think I'm not going to make it, I'm going to die. Don't go to the worst case scenario. Go to the best. Go to the love. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to make it out great. I'm going to have a say. I'm going to have support. I'm going to have my doula there. I'm going to write out what I want. I'm going to be prepared. You know what I mean? So I think for me, it's really, your mind is a huge part of your birthing experience and how it goes, and just making sure that you are prepared. But just know, guys, like we want to bring some joy back to birth.
Yes.
Not all the fear, you know what I mean? Because we have enough of that. And I just really feel like if you're prepared, if you have the information, if you have the knowledge, we can have a better birth outcome. Absolutely. But we have to know that we deserve to have the knowledge. You deserve to have a doula. You deserve all these things. But we've gotten to this like struggle life of like, or we just do without, or we'll make it without her. Like, no, invest in yourself. Get you a doula. Get you support.
And I think on top of that is like, we've gotten so accustomed to letting them do it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think in this season, like I'm huge on taking back our power and what belongs to us. You know what I mean? Like this is our,
it's yours.
This is our experience. And so it should not be someone else dictating what it's going to look like. Okay. Nicole, and I'm going to read this last comment. Nicole, what would you say to the support partners on advocating, right? Because like, we want to encourage the mom that's going to be there and stuff like that, but how do we encourage the support partners to lean in and to advocate, to rely on the doula and stuff like that, or if they go it alone? Because some couples choose to go it alone, and I think that's an honorable position as well and stuff. What would you say to the support person?
I think it's very similar to what you say to mom. Knowing what's going on, being informed, learning the things that you need to learn in order to advocate. And I think one of the first questions that I ask also, Ebony, is like, what are your fears? What are your concerns? Addressing those. And a lot of times it does come back to like advocacy. So then the question I turn and ask the partner is, if something were to happen and she's in a place where she can't speak for herself, do you feel comfortable advocating on her behalf? A lot of times partners get scared in the birth room. They've never seen, the birthing person in pain like this before. They just want it done. They want it over. Like, how do we get her out of pain? The doctor comes in. They're like, well, you look like you're in pain. Maybe we look at this epidural. And the partner's like, yes, get the epidural. And that's not in the plan. Like, know the plan, support the plan, be on page with the plan. And if you can't do it, then make sure there's somebody else in the room that can do it.
That's good.
So knowing the plan, knowing the options, making sure you're just as informed as, the birthing person, get a doula, get extra support. Even if that's just somebody, all of us offer like virtual doula support, like somebody on the phone that you can call, you can text and just say, this is what's happening. What do I do next? What do I say? Things like that. So just being there and being like that support person that they're expecting you to be, and knowing and being honest with yourself. Like if you cannot be that person that they need in that moment, maybe you're the person that just needs to sit and, hold their hand through contractions, help them breathe, help them focus, but you may not need to be the person that's advocating, for them in that moment. So, and I think, the other thing is just like, knowing all the things. One of the things, even outside of childbirth education, one of my childbirth education classes is Birth Partner 101, how to be the partner in the birth room. You know,
Absolutely.
what are the things that you need to know to be able to support somebody if there's not a doula present? So being the doula for your partner in that moment.
Absolutely. Those are big. Yeah, that's a whole mouthful. And those are big shoes to fill. And at the same time, like even with the doula present, the support person should not feel like they then don't have a job.
Right.
Because
Oh, you definitely have a job.
But we don't
as
take
the
your
doula,
place.
my job is to keep the couple together and stuff like that and make
Right.
sure that we're one, right? And
Right.
I'm just, you know, creating the protective space so that they can dwell and stuff like that. The doula does not ever replace the support person unless the support person checks out, and that is then on their own. But the doula is never there to replace a support person. Okay, so reading the comments real quick. A Riggs says, don't give birth without having a doula, period.
Amen.
Punto, that's it. Like, look, I'm with it. Jazzy Men says, have patience with yourself and enjoy the process. Take every moment in. You're doing great, and no two births are the same.
That's
Don't
right.
compare or keep up with the birthing Joneses. You've got this. I like that. Advice for new moms. Don't eat. Look. This is my favorite one. Advice for new moms. Don't eat anything heavy, greasy, or nasty. Eating
Anything that you don't want to come back up. That's
anything
it.
that you don't
If it comes back up and you're going to be unhappy, don't eat it.
during labor or right before labor and stuff like
Right.
that. None of that is good for you. Okay. So listen to this. And I think this story really sums up a lot of the conversation that we had tonight on advocacy. It says patient advocacy birth story. It says, thank you, doulas, for the opportunity to share my story and giving women a space to have tough conversations surrounded by love. Look, this is a whole novel right here. In June of 2019, I had a bilateral ovarian laparoscopy surgery to remove 8 cysts that had comprised the blood flow to my ovaries. During the surgery, the surgeon could not save my right ovary/fallopian tube, but he was able to salvage half of the left ovary. I woke up being told that I would never bear children again. I was broken. Less than 10 months later, I became pregnant at the age of 36 with Di twins. And then she goes on with a whole song reference right there, but I'm going to skip over that. I was told that I would not carry the twins to term, and that because I am an African American female, that I was high risk for complications like preeclampsia. I was consumed by negativity that I began to live in and stay in a state of fear and anxiety. My husband and Jen were and has always been the first to encourage me to to believe beyond the diagnosis. So I asked for a new OB/midwife and made a delivery plan. When my OB/GYN wanted to change the plan based on the positions of the girls, I was like, no, absolutely not. We have a plan. But after texting and talking with Eugene, they comforted me in a way that did not feel threatening to my psyche or my role as a mother. Medical professionals are there to partner with you. They provide tools, which is medicine, that can aid and facilitate in the recovery or the treatment. Use the tools. What I want you to know is that you are loved and you deserve the best care you have access to. So be empowered to ask the hard questions and take an active role in your health. Look,
I love that. I love that.
Pushed out twins. I want to say they were more than 11 pounds in total, and they came out vaginally, and the doctors didn't want to do it. The doctors were insistent, you know, it was a military facility. They were insistent on trying to get her to have a C-section. And you know what I mean? Like, but this wasn't her first rodeo, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't her first time giving birth, but like, even though it wasn't her first time giving birth, they were still able to place her into a space of fear and anxiety and a space of incompetence as far as like what she believed her body could do. And that is a place that no woman deserves to be in. So
exactly.
Look, this has been Dinner with the Doulas. No, we're not going to stop right here. Look, Nurse Ev, Doula Nicole, I want you guys to talk on your business. Give the people places to follow you at. Follow and like and follow them because they are absolutely amazing. So go ahead, Nicole.
So my name is Nicole Hunter. I'm a doula, childbirth educator, birth and fertility doula, placenta encapsulator, soon to be breastfeeding educator. I service the Charlotte area in person, and then I also do virtually, literally around the world for fertility and birth. You can follow me at bloom.birthing.fertility on all social media platforms. So, and I just want to thank everybody tonight that has participated and has chimed in and has supported us. This has been an awesome conversation, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to come around to this again. And all these conversations always birth new conversations. So I've already been like taking notes, partners in the birth room, informed consent, all of that stuff. So follow us, because we have more stuff coming all the way across the board. Go ahead, Ed.
So, just like Nicole said, I want to thank you guys for this conversation. I'm grateful for Nicole and I'm grateful for Jen because we have such a dynamic triad between the three of us, and it's so amazing. I appreciate the sisterhood because we love to support each other because we know we need doulas everywhere. This is not a scarcity mindset thing. Like, let's support each other. So I'm Ebony. Most people just call me Nurse Eb because I am by trade a registered nurse, but I'm also a doula and I'm also a certified lactation educator. And I'm also a soon-to-be nutrition health coach because I am huge on like using food as medicine to help heal your body. That's why I love working with clients that are high risk because I'm always trying to help them find a different way to look at their quote unquote diagnosis or the label and to let them know that you can still have an amazing experience even with that high risk label. I'm the founder of the Harmony Health Fertility, Birth and Wellness, which is my pregnancy care company. And I love what I do. I think it's just an amazing way to change the world through creation. And I truly feel like as humans, we are so much more powerful than we know we are. Yeah. And especially people with uteruses, because literally your womb is your seat of creation. And so I just want you guys to stand in your power, own your power, and just understand that in today's society, the way the world is now, the way things are going, I just want you guys to look more inward and go within yourself a lot more because we're realizing that we can't always depend on the system. We really got to require more of ourselves.
Yes.
So.
Right.
Come on, Nurse Ed, preach to me. Look, tonight I was your host, Jen Brazelton with In Love Birthing. I am also a childbirth educator. I have my childbirth education course, Intentional Birthing, where we cover every aspect of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs of the birthing family. Yeah, and look, we will be here in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. What I don't know what day it is. I feel like it's around the 16th. It's I think it's Doula Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be here in a couple of weeks for that, in 2 weeks exactly. Thank you so much for being here with us.
The 23rd.
The 23rd is the next time, not the 16th. I'm making up dates.
No,
right.
No, it's the 16th.
And so the 16th and then the 23rd is the Doula Appreciation.
I was thinking today was the 9th. It's only the 2nd.
Yes.
I've just been going so fast.
March 16th, we will be back for another great conversation, and we'll let you know what we'll be talking about. Listen, y'all have a great night. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we will see you next time.
And thank you.
Thank y'all.